Okay, today I figured I'd give you a little update on what's going on with the Jeep. Got this center section of the winch bumper kind of fabbed up. I had the ends on it, and then these frame tie-ins, you can see they go clear back in here. They're really short on the end, so that sucked that up against there, which is fine. I actually like that, but it leaves the winch kind of sticking out goofy. And then the ends were bent in too much, so I had to cut them off. You can see one of them right there, and I wasn't liking how the edge of this was going. So on the other side, where we don't have the power steering pump, I created sleeves and welded in nuts so we don't crush the frame and we don't pull through if I'm winching something. This is a 9,500 pound Warn high-speed winch, and I've got to do a little bit of rewiring in here because one of these terminals is rotted away. Show you something else too. If it'll come open, right? Maybe. Find the camera bumping around. Guess what we got in here, baby? Engine's in. Brand new motor. Punched out 30 over. High flow water pump, high flow oil pump, new everything. So she is set to go, and I'm just working on getting that done. I thought the floors were done, but the purpose of today's episode is not to show you the engine going in because it's already done. But I come in here to touch up some areas like this, and this, and that, and the other. And I thought, well, we'll hit those with some 415 like we did up front. And I start poking around, and looky what I found. This little bugger was hiding underneath some of the seam sealer, and it is rusty. And the only way I can get to it is to take this panel out, this piece here. I really don't want to do that, but the only other option is to cut it and then have to re-weld in. So I would rather re-weld spot welds than an entire line or something through this. So that's what we're gonna do, is start drilling spot welds here. And I'm gonna start out with one of these bits. These are super sharp machinist bits. And then we'll move up to this guy here. I'd like to use my spot weld cutter, but it's just not doing a good job, and it just skates off. Okay, I heard that pop. That's a good thing. Let's drill this out a little wider now. Drilling spot welds, you want to listen for a little crack, and that means that welds come loose. Oh, okay. Now, if this doesn't come free, then we'll go ahead and hit that with a cold chisel and just try and pop it up without bending the heck out of that thing. It is what it is. Okay, your spot weld is about that size. So, unfortunately, this part along the seam is not going to be fun, and I'm not looking forward to doing that. So let me get this other spot weld found, because I think there's one in here. If I can see that spot weld. Alright, sorry if this is noisy. Get this to come up. Okay, it looks like it's pinned right there. I don't know. Straighten that out while it's still held in place here a little. Good. Try and be careful here we don't tear this. But I gotta get it free. Ow. Okay. Now we'll have to pull this back a little bit once we get that to that state here. I'm not drilling these out as big because these are smaller spot welds. there. It's just a weird place for one, but there it is. Okay, one right there. Okay, you can see that panel starting to move now. Let's get that knocked free here. I don't think we're going to lose any structural integrity here, but you know, there's always a chance, I guess. So we'll take this back a little further, maybe into here. I don't want to get into these, you know, strengthening ribs or anything like that, but we're going to have to go up to at least where it's solid, and then come over, maybe in there. This is okay here. I'd prefer not to have to do another bend or anything, but we'll see how this looks underneath before we make any serious plans. But I'll have to pound this flat a little bit, and then this is stretched just a little bit, but no biggie, we can fix that. So stay tuned. Okay, well, it's the next day or a couple of days later. I finally got this piece out, and you can see the mess underneath here. Holy crapola. This section here was not easy to get undone, and then I got this rotted corner right here to fix too. I'm gonna have to see what we're gonna do about that. Probably have to take out all the seam sealer. I think this is just a 90-degree bend off the main floor, so that shouldn't be too bad. But this here, boy, is it rusty. Look at that. So we're going to get this cleaned up, and we'll cut this out, use that as pattern, and then we're going to have to straighten this piece out because it got pretty screwed up. And I think what I'll do is I'll sandblast this, and then we'll paint this with chassis saver before we put it back in. And chassis saver is pretty good about not burning off in big sections. It just point burns when you weld through it. So, you know, I'm not going to weld through it. I mean, I'm going to weld in through here onto this. You can see we got a little bend here too. We'll just straighten that out. And this actually came off really easily here. I was very shocked. So no biggie there. We'll just get this seal out of the way. So I'll bring it back and this is all cleaned up. All right, we're all cleaned up in here. I just took a wire wheel to it and get it all cleaned up. I'm not going to clean this up obviously because that's coming out, but it really gives us an idea of where the seam is, where the spot welds are, and how bad the damage is underneath here. I think what we're going to do is we'll just take and zip this back to a place where I can weld it pretty easily, and then we'll just bend this up a 90 here and incorporate that into the new piece, and I'll get this thing fabbed up. We've got to have a 90 on this too. I might just do it all as one piece. It depends on, one, how big a piece of metal I've got, and two, how big of a pain in the ass it is. But this back in here, that could be a real treat. A real treat, because you know there's spot welds underneath all that crap too, up in here, and I can't see them, nor can I drill them. It's just, I don't know if that's moisture that's got in through that hole down there. That hole was in the Jeep when I got it, and I'd never had a chance where this Jeep was down long enough that I could take and repair that, but I think we're going to now, so this doesn't happen again. But that is going to be a whole separate job. I've also got spots underneath here I want to get some paint on because they're starting to kind of get crusty. Once again, same situation. So fellas, if you've got a rotten rocker panel right down there, like a lot of Jeeps do, get on it and get it fixed because it's tearing up your vehicle, and you're not going to want to have to do the things that I'm doing in here. Trust me, because I've already had to repair that floor up in there. And yeah, it looks like a yard sale up in there because all the tools are there, but you know, I don't really care about that because it's going to get cleaned out and whatever before long, and it is what it is. So if you don't like it, then that's fine. Let's get on this, and I'm going to go ahead and try and remove this in as much of one piece as I can. enough. And get this corner cleaned out a little bit too. I got probably 99% of that seam sealer out of there, so. Okay, well, hopefully you can see in there. I got this all cleaned up, so we're pretty well ready to go. I need to get a little bit more of that rust off there, and then I want to take that one little piece out of the corner there. So back up in here was a big pain in the butt, and it still needs to be cleaned up, but that's not a huge issue. We'll get the brush in there and whatever to get that cleaned up, and then over here on the edge too. Get all that cleaned up, get this straightened up, and get that looking right again. And then, like I say, we got to fix that other panel that come out of there. More Swiss cheese, and that's not going to make much of a template, but you can see where the bend is, right there and right there. That's really all I need. You know, figure it out. And if it's off, I'll just make a little adjustment, and I'll go from there. I really like to make this all one piece if I can, if it's not too big of a hassle, because I've got to have a 90-degree bend right here anyway to match up with this. So that's what we're going to do next. Also, probably, you know, once I clean this up, I'll touch this up and paint it, because it's about ready to rain, and I don't want this to rust any more than it already has. But I'd really rather go over this with a wire wheel and try and get this whole paint off, because 415 or chassis saver or whatever you're using is not going to do you any good over paint. It has to be to bare metal. So we'll go through and clean all this with some brake cleaner too, make sure it's all dedusted. So once again, the overview, I think it turned out pretty good, I mean, considering what was there. So, okay, well, we're pretty well cleaned up, straightened out, all that jazz. So let's give you the overview once again. It's all straightened up. There's a little bit of paint in there. I'll probably just run some sandpaper over. And yeah, it's looking pretty decent. So now we're on to fabricating those patch panels, or patch panel, whichever I decide to do. Hopefully it's one piece. I gotta go see what's I've got for metal. Okay, well, I decided to paint the whole thing here, just for protection, because it started to rain and I'm not sure when I'm going to get back to this. I've got to work tomorrow. Okay, we got this part all cleaned up and sandblasted. However, there's a little rot on there, so I'll flip this over so you can see it. I'm going to redo this piece right here and fix that. You can see right on the back side there where it just was up against that other panel and it rotted, so yeah, we'll repair that, no biggie. And then you can see where this went here and what we've got to repair on the other panel. So that's where that goes. And of course we'll have to suck that back in. That's really easy to do. So we'll just line up our spot welds from before, and we'll put a spoon back behind there to weld against. So the next thing we're going to do is have to fix this panel a little bit, and then go ahead and fabricate this and paint this up, and we'll go ahead and get that installed. Okay, we've got this one painted and all repaired. I ended up adding a new section in here, and then the bottom here as well. And then we're doing the templating for this bottom panel here. You can see everything lines up pretty good right there. It fits pretty good. Now we'll just have to recreate this in metal, if I can get it out of here. Okay, so this metal's from 1937. Good strong sheet metal. This is the old top off my Studebaker. I'll be keeping the back half to maybe repair the tree damage. But the rest of this metal's up for grabs. I might as well use it up, right? So probably gonna build myself a visor out of this too, out of the front of this car. Here, so. Okay guys, we got this piece made up, and I'm still gonna sandblast it. Get all this old undercoat and stuff off there, and straighten a few little areas, but it doesn't really matter. This is just a pinch seam here. So this fits in here really well. Got it all in there. Got a little gap so the weld will penetrate. Full penetration on the weld. Still need to drill our holes, obviously. And then this gap here should close up just a little bit. Right about like that when we pull it over. But all in all, I think we've got our bends pretty dang close. Now, keep in mind, this is not welded down, so it's going to stick up a little bit. Oh, geez, that looks great. Look at that. Let's see if I can show you a little bit better. This is not sucked up tight, obviously, because it's not welded in, but yeah, that turned out really nice looking. So, that is how you repair a complicated rusty spot on your Jeep floor. All right, we've got this sandblasted and we got all the holes drilled, and she fits in here really well. I need to adjust it a little bit here, just push it down so that those contours match, but it's kind of an optical illusion. Those are actually just about perfect once you get this pushed down. And then I had to bend this back a little bit to get this rolled in here. So I've got the divot rolled in there. Just kind of match that and give it some strength, and then just not terminate in a weld that looks goofy. So next stage is going to be painting this, and I'll deburr these holes so that they don't hinder us from sitting flat against the panel behind it. So that's the next stage. Okay, well, this is our first test fit with all the panels painted. We've got just a touch of trimming to do right there, but that's no biggie. I'll clamp that and then we'll figure out where we need to trim that. I'll just take a second. But, all in all, this looks really good. This needs to be pulled in a little bit. So once we've got this clamped, it'll be better. But you know, you might say, why did you paint this entire thing if you're just going to weld and burn the paint off? And that is it was just easy. Okay, it's all welded in. It's not cleaned up yet, so it isn't pretty. These areas back in here, the original was seam sealed in there, so that's what we're gonna do. I'll grind all this down, and it does seem redundant to paint it twice, but the main purpose was to protect this while it was sitting here. I didn't know when I was gonna get to install this, because I forgot about this center pad that had to be welded down. I'll get this hammered a little bit, and then grind all this and repaint it all. Like I say, it's a bit redundant, but that's what happens. And I'm worried that we're gonna have to do this on the other side, right there. So I'm gonna peel the seam sealer back and see what we're looking at. Hopefully that didn't go too far underneath there, but this is getting kind of flaky right here. It's still solid, but I don't want it to go any further. And you can see areas like this. We're gonna strip this whole thing down and paint it, because these areas here, there's no tooth for the paint to even stick to. I'm surprised it stuck as well as it did, because it looks like they just welded that and probably left all the oil on it and everything, shot the paint on. But we're not going to do that. This will be painted with the chassis saver. So I got to go run, and this is all I can do tonight. So we are done for now. Stay tuned.